With the current pandemic and the lockdown situation, the global economy is facing somewhat of a recession. Since you are here, you must be one of those wondering how this is going to affect you and your career. Have you started thinking about the security of your future amidst this chaotic situation? Hi, all. I welcome you to this session. And today we are going to be talking about global recessions and why it will never affect the analytics industry. So, before I begin, let's look at our agenda for today. We're going to start out by discussing a little bit about a recession and talk a little bit about how it affects various domains. Then we are going to look at a few facts from the Great Recession of the year 2007 to 2008 and what were the key inferences or takeaways from the Great Recession. Then we are also going to take a look at the impact of recession on the analytics market. That is going to be the main subject for today, followed by how analytics actually helps during an economic recession in various fields of life, especially during a time like the ones we are living in right now. And then finally, we're going to talk a little bit about the job market in analytics to conclude our session. Also, kindly take up this time to subscribe to us and don't forget to hit that bell icon to never miss an update from the Edureka YouTube channel. Also, do check out our certification trainings to learn more about data analytics, data science, or any such related concepts. So, without much ado, let's get started. Now, let's start out by understanding what exactly is a recession. Yes? Now, many economists say that we are overdue for a recession. Despite a low unemployment rate and the economy's longest expansion on record, experts and the World Bank point to trade wars and other globally financial risky situations as reasons for a dim forecast. In economics, a recession is a business cycle contraction where there is a general decline in economic activity. Recessions generally occur when there is a widespread drop in spending, which leads to an adverse demand shock. So basically, it will cause an increasing deficit and lowering interest rates all over the world. And hence, it's going to significantly affect employment, salaries, jobs across industries. Across most of the IT sector, the major cuts in salaries and jobs are more likely to happen in consumer focused sectors, including hospitality, tourism, and non essential retail. As these sectors have seen an acute fall in demand because of the lockdowns across different countries, they are expected to recover and reach pre recession revenue parity in 3 or 4 quarters of operations resumed. Now, while that is the case for most of the domains, research states that the impact of the ongoing recession on the analytics domain on a whole may not be as severe as its impact on various other sectors. The broader quantifiable impact of the recession on salaries across analytics can only be measured after a few months of the recession. By then, the impact of the recession on operations costs and demand for products and services would be felt across industries and organizations. Across the IT sector, even if the global and domestic economies have persistently slowed down, the impact of the current demand on overall operations would still be less significant as this sector provides strategic value to its global clients and consumers. So let's move on and try and understand what the Great Recession was, what it entailed, and what did we infer from that episode. Firstly, let's take a little time to cover what happened in the Great Recession of 2007 2008. The 2007 financial contagion and the subsequent Great Recession resulted in the loss of tens of millions of jobs, out of which 7 million were in the United States alone. The map that you see in front of you shows just how much it had affected each country across the globe, the red ones being the most affected while the grayed out ones were the least. Average income started to drop and higher government borrowing started to occur. The prices of the stocks and properties also fell, taking a real hit on the GDP worldwide. But here's the catch. The financial contraction did not treat all jobs equally. Nearly 80% of job losses occurred amongst workers with a high school education or lower. The remaining losses occurred amongst workers with some collegiate or associate degrees. The recovery from the Great Recession had been equally difficult for low skilled workers and those without college credentials, since the recession accelerated the transition to a knowledge based digital economy that rewarded high skill and college credentials. Nearly two-thirds of the 8.4 million jobs that were created during the recovery required at least a bachelor's degree, and nearly all of the remaining jobs required some sort of collegiate or associate degree. Only about a third of the new jobs required a high school degree or lower. Signs of the demand of the digital skills appeared as early as 2011. Data driven industries were called the next frontier for innovation, competition, and productivity, which projected not only a shortfall of 200,000 data scientists, but also a deficit of 1.5 million analytics enabled managers, and the talent gap was significant in the minds of employers. Let's move ahead and try and understand what you could infer from this great recession. What did we learn from this recession? Number one, a talent gap persists that is most likely to extend into the next decade. The 2016 Education and Workforce Survey identified the relevance and the need for analytic skills as crucial. 94% of employers said that these skills are very or somewhat relevant to the current job openings of their companies. 89% cited finding qualified applicants in this field as very problematic. And note that in both cases, these skills are the second most relevant and problematic field among six other science, technology, engineering, and math or STEM fields, illustrating that the need for analytic skills is particularly acute even within the larger STEM shortage. The next thing that we learned is that the majority of the job openings demanded for analytics enabled professionals. Analytics enabled professionals, including functional analysts, basically the people who use data and analytical models to inform domain specific functions and business decisions, and data driven decision makers, basically people who leverage data to inform strategic and operational decisions, represent nearly 70% of all job postings. The demand for these professionals are scattered across jobs of all domains. Jobs for analytics enabled professionals represented two-thirds or more in many sectors. And this demand is not limited to the technology or professional sectors alone, but also demonstrated in finance, health, manufacturing, and retail. The next thing that we learn, and also the most important in my opinion, is that structured talent acquisition need not necessarily work for the digital economy. As the march towards digitalization continues forward, new approaches to talent recruitment and development of incumbent employees will be needed. These approaches must be defined less by traditional career tracks such as collegiate grades and more by their set of data driven and analytical skills which needed to build cohesive multidisciplinary teams that can deliver business results. Companies started to invest in market driven programs for their employees and also sponsor scholarships that linked learning with work in colleges. When creating a new undergraduate program, colleges tried to create partnerships with business that made the learning meaningful in real world ways. This often meant encouraging employees at the funding company to become involved in the program or expanded funded research to include undergraduate education. Think about moving from a transactional relationship between business and higher education to a more strategic partnership where both parties are involved in meaningful ways. Strategic investments in digital data driven technologies are not likely to live up to their potential unless companies align their people and cultures with their strategies in more systematic ways. This, in turn, modernized education, training, and development for long term employability. Which brings me to my fourth and final point, which is to expand the pathways that lead to a more analytical workforce across the domains. The key to developing new capabilities in the workforce was to offer employees the opportunity to build skills in new technology areas, followed by job rotations and on job development programs to apply and practice these new skills. Employees were also motivated by the opportunity to expand their technical expertise and recognize the value of the investment that the company makes in their careers. Later, if not sooner, people started to invest themselves into learning new technologies to build a strong repertoire. All majors required some sort of foundational knowledge of data analytics and data science process. Data visualization is a great example of such knowledge. It fuses the art and science of helping students to use data to express themselves in creative ways, and also gaining insights from the data that they have acquired. In the end, the broad adoption and effective use of data and analytics added hundreds of billions of dollars in productivity over a decade. However, closing the talent gap and ensuring diverse workforce was something which is still required to capture this value. Most importantly, data-driven skills must be broadly applied to meet the demand of the current industry. Given the demand, the basic competencies have an outsized impact on the global economy. As the world generates even greater amounts of data, data-driven talent will be needed at all levels. Next, let's see how analytics can help us during a global recession. In a recession, finding ways to do business and spend less money becomes paramount. Analytics may not be able to tell you exactly when the economy might shift. However, data analytics can certainly help an organization mitigate the impact of a recession by giving you the right information to better target the right market, save money, and increase profits. The companies that respond best to an economic recession are the ones that are most prepared for one. And the good news in this case is that there is always time to prepare. Some experts suggest that the best time for an organization to conduct a digital transformation is just before a recession hits, while others say that this transformation should be done when the slowdown in sales begin. In either of the cases, this change is necessary. Acting before a recession allows an organization to be proactive rather than reactive with its data. And since it could take time to put the necessary tools in place, depending on where your organization is with its technology, it's better to already have the tools to navigate the recession rather than wait until after the dust settles to start from scratch. Analytics help companies figure out which aspects of their businesses are most likely to thrive no matter what the global economic conditions are. It may require limited focus, but by using the data to pinpoint which products do well in certain markets, a company can direct its energies to the areas it knows will continue to sell well. If a company is able to identify through the data customers who enjoy a particular product, the enjoyment is likely to lessen even in a recession, and the organization is likely to see an increase in profit from a direct to customer approach. In the advent of a recession, data analytics and business intelligence help save time and money. Finding ways to do business and spend less amount of money becomes paramount. Advanced analytics tools can help organizations figure out what tasks can be automated. For example, BI tools can be used to focus on customer engagement, identifying which accounts have been communicated with and whether or not there are accounts that require attention. This will increase the customer retention of said company. You could also point to other economic efficiencies that the company can take advantage of. And even if the forecasts are wrong and a recession is further away than the experts predict, only good things can come from taking the time now to come up with a plan from when the record expansion shifts to a downturn. It never hurts to be prepared, right? And the data that might help a company survive a recession could help it thrive in the current climate state. Next, let's move on to the impact of recessions on the analytics market. Now, from an expense perspective, analytic applications for financial analysis, customer profitability, and especially corporate performance management are likely to be closely evaluated. Some analytic applications, such as those associated with campaign management, can help generate additional revenues while helping to monitor and control expenses. When the threat of a recession arises, every source of revenue must be considered. Astute business people will try to maximize the revenue potential from their existing customers while attempting to attract new ones. They will also seek ways to reduce expenses and determine which departments, programs, and initiatives are performing below expectations. After all, a penny saved is a penny earned, and a company can increase its profits by both generating new revenue as well as reducing expenses. Apart from that, some organizations, particularly those concerned with defense and homeland security, have needs that are relatively independent of economic landscape. These customers and prospects are likely to cut back on their plans for deploying additional tech, but tend to focus more on fraud attempts and security trouble. In times like these, fraud tends to become more prevalent, and analytics can be used to track and analyze these attempts, and data mining can then be used to predict common characteristics of those likely to be involved in fraudulent activities. The bottom line is that analytics is not a luxury item that an organization can defer to in hard times. Rather, it is an essential aspect that can be used to identify new revenue opportunities, prevent fraud, and identify unproductive expenditures. Hence, these requirements keep the analytics market afloat compared to other sister domains. As you can see in front of you, the post recession, when jobs were created, in every single domain, there is a requirement of analytics based jobs. You can see the numbers on your screen where you can see the demand for data analytics and data science jobs by sector and by job category. We have your finance and insurance, healthcare and social assistance, information, manufacturing, professional, scientific, and technical services, as well as retail trade. So currently, the coronavirus or the COVID-19 outbreak is having a growing impact on the global economy. Several nations, including India, UK, South Korea, and China, are under lockdown or just lifting up lockdowns, right? So these lockdowns, while effectively slowing the spread of the virus, are economically extremely harmful. The world is witnessing layoffs, furloughs, and pay cuts amidst the current financial crisis. So, although a lot of tech and IT employees are feeling the heat, somehow the analytics sector is staying afloat during this phase. In fact, between February and March of 2020, job titles that included terms like data science and data analytics and machine learning were on track to increase by 11% at the time when the job postings for most occupations were falling. So let's go ahead and dig in a bit deeper, shall we? Let's look at how data analytics, big data, machine learning, and in general analytics trends work in every field. First of all, we have analytics in business. Now, analytics will help you save time and money. In a time like this, finding ways to do business and spend less money becomes paramount. Advanced analytics tools can help organizations figure out what tasks can be automated, how to retain customer engagement, and which aspects of business will thrive despite of the current economic climate. Business analytics makes extensive use of analytical modeling and numerical analysis, including explanatory and predictive modeling and a fact-based management to drive decision making. In such a case, analytics will develop new insights and help drive the business performance based on current and past recession data as well as statistical methods. According to a report in 2009, despite the recession been going on for the past year, the analytics market seemed to be booming. The reasons didn't seem to vary much. Basically, data analytics helped companies to not just identify cost savings but also grow profits. Not just that, a mid-year report found that data analytics and business intelligence software applications had the highest impact for companies over the next 2 to 5 years, pulling certain companies out of the post-recession hangover. It basically was a complete roadmap to understanding how data driven decisions and analytics had been successfully able to insulate organizations from the effects of the economic recession. And that in itself is a great reason to why this market stays afloat despite the global recession. In biomedical research. So, a lot of work is going on to try to develop a vaccine to find out whether there is any current drugs that work against the coronavirus. All of those projects require molecular modeling and analytics, and many of them are using machine learning and big data to map things we know about the virus in pharmacological databases and genomic databases. You can create models using these technologies that can eliminate false tracks and allow us to identify potential targets. So instead of trying 100 or 1,000 different things, researchers can now narrow it down to a much smaller size thanks to analytics, which will make the job much, much faster. This is going to accelerate the eventual finding of the vaccine. To make any real progress in this situation, you need to bring together people who understand computation and data, people who understand biological and biomedical implications, and people who understand statistics and population models. It's a very interdisciplinary problem, and to make any headway, the world needs data, and hence it needs big data professionals, analysts, and their academia. So the trained talent in the analytics industry obviously will stay afloat. Next, let's look at supply chain management and logistics. Now, from the shortages of personal protective equipment to a variety of grocery items to electronics and apparel, during any global recession, the global supply chain is expected to be hit in unexpected and unforeseen ways, and it seems likely that it would take months, even years, to recover sometimes. Now, bouncing back more quickly, you will obviously require supply chain managers to turn new ways of managing the supply chain using data from Internet of Things or IoT, analytics, and machine learning. These tools will become the foundation on which supply chain managers gain insight to their market and erratic supply on demand trends. Next, we have monitoring mobility and social distancing. Now, recently, the Newcastle University Urban Observatory has developed an urban data dashboard to help understand the impact of social distancing measures on people and vehicle movement within a metropolitan city in real time. The objective is to understand the dynamics of movement in a city using thousands of sensors and data sharing agreements to monitor movement around the city, from traffic to pedestrian flow to congestion, car parking occupancies, and bus GPS trackers. It also monitors energy consumption, air quality, and climate, and many other variables, all of which is acquired through sensory data. This type of data not only shows how physical distancing is changing in real time, but also provides us a detailed insight into long term behavioral changes, all thanks to the ocean of data that is available to us and the analysts that crack it down and find patterns in them. Cities, enterprises, and national governments should collectively create a massive global network of sensors to detect viruses for future pandemics as well. This further will fuel the implementation of the smart city concept, which is very specific to each city but also catering to some global problems, despite the severe criticism it has received in the past due to data privacy issues. Next, we have controlling the pandemic situation through social media using data science and AI. Now, be it reaching to the target audience through cluster algorithms or identifying the at risk individuals who are close to the infected individuals in terms of frequency and recency of communication through graph analysis. Data science and data analytics, along with some artificial intelligence tool, will have a big role to play by leveraging the social media platforms. Additionally, natural language processing, data mining, and predictive analytics are going to come handy in detecting fake news and analyzing people's movement in near future, including travel plans, destinations, and the number of travelers. Hence, you can say that you're using data analytics, predictive analytics, and cluster algorithms to leverage social media to combat the current pandemic. Then we have the use of cloud computing in making remote work more convenient for organizations and team members. Now, with so many people in self isolation for what could be as long as 18 months under estimates, and with a possible long term shift towards home based work for a large segment of the population, large scale deployment of the public 5G access points is likely to be curtailed. Now, the cloud capacity, especially from hyperscale vendors such as AWS, Microsoft Azure, Google Compute, Oracle Cloud, and IBM Cloud, is what is going to get us through the storm. With a remote home based workforce, remote desktop technologies will be essential until native born in the cloud applications can run core business functions. Legacy vertical industry, Windows client server apps are problematic and will need to be refactored and rewritten entirely in software as a service. This will occur using enabling technologies such as containerization and microservices because VMs and IaaS are computationally extremely expensive. Next, we have the edtech, fitness, entertainment, social media, and OTT platforms. Now, with people staying indoors, the demand for online learning, fitness, social media, and digital consumption has increased exponentially across the board. Video conferencing apps such as Zoom, Google Hangouts, Google Duo, and House Party have seen nearly 72% of increase in the time spent, while the average user count has risen by over 100% in each of these. Since users will be looking for more personalized digital content, the demand for professionals with solid skills in machine learning, deep learning, data science, and data analytics will go up tremendously. And then we finally have financial tech and financial services. Now, banking and financial services are essentially for everyone. With people working from home and maintaining social distancing, this would be a great opportunity for fintech startups. Online services that we can pay for through fintech are now practically covering every industry imaginable. Now, if I had to talk about the data analytics trends in a nutshell, I'd like to say that the crisis is in its early days and it is hard to predict where it will lead. However, according to a recent survey report by Birchworks, an International Institute for Analytics, the scenario for employees in data analytics, big data, data science, and machine learning is still very promising. Demand for data oriented occupations and skill sets skyrocketed in the year 2019, and this year, however, it might not see the same speed, but there still will be jobs for good talent. In such a scenario like we are in right now, and any other recession, data analysts and data engineers have a built in job security relative to other positions as businesses transition their operations to rely more heavily on data related sciences. Now, this is a long term trend that is not likely to change due to any pandemic and is here to stay. Although momentum has started to slow down, it seems like for data analysts, it is not as bad as the other industries. When it comes to data analytics deployments, organizations should not be penny wise and pound foolish. They should consider expanding their business intelligence deployments rather than cutting them back. In fact, the threat of a recession might even enable organizations to gain additional leverage with some data analytics and trends in hand. With that, we come to the end of this session. I shall leave you with the thought. My name is Upasna. Thank you and have a great day.
I hope you have enjoyed listening to this video. Please be kind enough to like it, and you can comment any of your doubts and queries, and we will reply them at the earliest. Do look out for more videos in our playlist and subscribe to Edureka channel to learn more. Happy learning!